Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
Tony Caravan with you. I am assuming, and you know you never want to assume, that the audio today is working. Good morning. Yesterday was a disaster. Today is a nightmare. Jesus. I shouldn't be laughing because if you came to this site because you saw that title, it ain't easy. This is going to be more in the tradition of Tony Caravan Live shows that the few who have followed this from the outset would appreciate. Sorry for slurping on the air. It's some Dr. Thunder. I'm running behind time. I am behind my time. That's from Dickens' Christmas Carol. It's 5:36 a.m. in the morning. I haven't been awake all that long. I semi-rushed this thing together. And I did do laundry yesterday, so it's a clean handkerchief for your people who see I either think I have 7,000 of these. I do have multiple handkerchiefs, but that's not the story.
Let's get this show on the road.
I see my voice moving on there, but I don't necessarily see the sound effects from there coming over. So I'm going to have to do a test with a couple of these audio things.
This is Metropolitan Police speaking. Metropolitan Police speaking. All persons are warned to stay off the streets. All persons are warned to stay off the streets.
If for some reason those pauses where you see me do nothing and there's no audio, the whole concept of this ain't easy is going to make a lot of sense. Let's try this loud one, which should, I'm looking at some VU meters on the bottom, and I don't see them moving.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Test 1, 2, 3. I hate when people do that. That used to be the big thing, the amateur thing when bands, when I was in bands, when I was in like high school, grade school, high school, and some test 1, 2, 3. There used to be one band. Hear ye, hear ye. People used to do all kinds of weird things. And then I still see people today testing 1, 2, 3. I wonder who the first person who said testing 1, 2, 3 was. You ever think about something like that? The sheer amount of glare. I've got the backlight on that's running off of the solar charger, which I charged yesterday. And what I'm going to do is today use no weather for our
Weekend weather.
13 miles an hour. The pressure was 29.76 inches and steady. Now a few other local conditions. Pittsburgh, light rain 39. Indiana, cloudy 39. Latrobe, cloudy 41. State College, mostly cloudy 36. Clearfield, cloudy 35. Du Bois, cloudy 36. Erie, cloudy 41. Elsewhere around the region at 5 a.m.
So, according to NOAA, I'm in the mid-Atlantic states, the former United States. Everything behind me is backwards and in reverse because that's how the interface works, as I've said before. It's currently 39 degrees here, where outside of my studios in beautiful downtown, well, it's not hardly downtown. This was once a downtown many, many years ago when this was an industrial town. Now it's a ghost town. At 7 a.m., they're saying there's a 53% chance of snow. I planted in my garden. It's April. And tell me that stuff's starting. A clearing throat starting already. I just started. There are people out there still pushing the narrative of global warming. The first day of spring was almost a month ago. There's a reason they call it the first day of spring. Okay? It's 39 degrees outside. Tomorrow night, it's going to be 37. Saturday night, also 37. Sunday, 39 degrees. Monday night, 43 degrees. Tuesday, 43 degrees. I'm giving you your weekend weather. And it's going to be 45 as the high today with a chance of snow, more than a 50% chance of snow. And Saturday, it's going to be 48 degrees for the high and 37 degrees for the low, which basically means frost because, at ground level, it's always cooler than it is at, where they measure this stuff at the airports, tarmacs that are black, with jet engines heating it up, or in the cities where these HVAC systems are pumping out all this heat, right? And all these people and buildings are all pressed in. That's how global warming, that's what they use for their gauges. Anyway, that was your weekend weather. Yeah, I'm not in such a good mood today. Not really.
Rock Flux Live.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Well, let's hear it.
Insert your station call letters here.
Here we
Go.
I gotta go.
You're clear to go. Hey, don't think this sounds really cool.
Let's roll. Did you accidentally inject yourself with some kind of psychotropic agent?
Yeah, you bet I did, man. You bet I did. Gulp, gulp, gulp. People are looking at me like, man, you changed like from night to day. Sometimes you seem like a half decent guy. Other times you seem like a real prick or an idiot or a jerk. It's all show business, people. It has to do with the title of the show today. The title of the show. It ain't easy. I'm going to pull up my little card. Make sure I spelled everything right. Got my contraction right. YouTube says I'm right. So far. Oh, man, I'll tell you. I had this dream right before I woke up. And I guess I was with some girl who I was in love with, type of thing. Face wasn't familiar. It wasn't like an ex-girlfriend or anything like that, just a different kind of face. It wasn't even like a TV face from like a movie, And then there was some other dude there that was getting the runaround. We were in some kind of place. At first, it seemed like some kind of boutique shop or something like that. And then it kind of towards the end, it turned into a bar. Because she was going to have, I'm not just going to have a little bit. I'm not going to finish my drink. But then I'm going to, and then some kind of like thing she had with some other guy who was like 6'8", type of guy. And he said, and they had some kind of little thing together, like woof, 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 woof. It's tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Woof, woof. Right. And then your heart drops to your knees, as they say, or your feet. And meanwhile, the whole thing started off with me witnessing this other guy being totally blown off by this chick behind the counter, which at that point was like a counter where they were selling things, like it was a store things or boutique-y things or something. What does that even mean? So, and there's people there, there's these dream interpreters and shrinks that could look at that and come up with all kinds of reasonings behind it. That's like do you ever have a happy nightmare? You know what that is? I may have talked about that once before. A happy nightmare is like one of those things where you're doing something that you really want to do and you're so happy, right? It's like the greatest day of your life, or you're making love with your ex-girlfriend or something like that, and it's just beautiful, and you're just both laying kicking back in bed, and it's a beautiful day, beautiful morning, and then you wake up. I wrote a song about that called Happy Nightmares. I don't know if I have a copy of that on my thing here, because I don't often. That's one of the more obscure songs. Happy. No, it's not even. I don't even have it on my thing, which is sad. I mean, I have it on here. I wonder if I put it on my best. Happy Nightmares live, the live version, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's on this seat on the essential. You can only buy this on a CD. The Essential Tony Caravan, Beat Poetry of Tony Caravan. Look way down the bottom. I don't know if you can see it through here with this glare. It's fourth from the bottom. Happy Nightmare Live. I mean, I have it on here, but I can't go back and forth and back and forth. It's just the way it works. But I woke up today and after that dream, I was awake, and then I thought of It Ain't Easy, and I was going to write a song because I haven't had inspiration to write a song in a while. And, of course, there was Happy Nightmares. Suck. Don't they? I think there was a song by the Three Dog Night called It Ain't Easy. And then Ringo Starr had one. I think he had a solo song, was It Ain't Easy, or It Ain't Easy. I think, yeah. It ain't easy, it just ain't easy. But I wasn't thinking about any of those tracks or anything like that. And my It Ain't Easy is completely out of what song would have been completely different. Who knows? Maybe I will write it again. I just haven't gotten into the songwriting mode. It's like when, any kind of writer gets into a, dry spell. Did you get The Morning Show mug? This is like the camping metal mug, and they do have other ones. But the thing about It Ain't Easy is that theme we're going to stick with. I wrote in the one of our friends says that Bowie has a track called It Ain't Easy too. The Bowie track, well, let me get through this first. On the description, which most people never read, it says whether it's a confluence of events and you're the victim of circumstances or just life itself, it just ain't easy sometimes. That would have been the direction I would have taken it in. I'm going to look here. Let's see here. Bowie, It Ain't Easy. See if I can find the lyrics. When you climb to the top of the mountain, look out over the sea, think about the places perhaps where a young man could be. Then you jump back down to the rooftops. Now, that is the one, I guess, Three Dog Night, either he or, let's see who wrote that. Songwriters Ron Davies. Now, if you go to Three Dog Night lyrics, that when you go up on the mountaintop and you look out across the sea and you know there's another place perhaps a young man can be. Yeah, it's the same song. One or the other covered it. Let me see. It's hard to say because Bowie, you'd have to talk to a musicologist about that, because I don't see a date on any of these things, but it really wouldn't matter because Bowie, I'm answering a guy if on another Tony on the chat. Bowie and Three Dog Night were out about the same at the same time. The Three Dog Night version is Three Dog Night did a lot of covers. People don't know. Three Dog Night's known for songs like Mama Told Me Not to Come, that kind of stuff, But they put a lot of cover tracks on their songs, on their albums. So they could have covered a Bowie track, or Bowie could have covered that track. There could even be a third party involved. Back in that era, the 60s, 70s, there were people with, they had this thing called Tin Pan Alley in New York. It was like down around, was it 9th Avenue or something? It was like pretty sleazy part of New York. I think it was near Hell's Kitchen, they used to call it. It's like where 42nd Street is, but you go, back the other way behind it. And they called it Tin Pan Alley, and that's where like Carole King and all these these people just used to pound out songs. A little bit of history for people who aren't aware of that. But the thing was that, they wrote all these songs, and it was a lot of these songs were also black guys wrote a lot of songs, and then white performers did them. That was like another thing. That was like before the civil rights movement type of thing. So it would, like, radio stations wouldn't play black music, pop stations. Yeah, it was some, stuff that's going on now, was something that was really going on about 60, 70 years ago and earlier. But what people don't realize is that Western civilization got over all that stuff by the 70s, and then it was all like, and then like R&B and then black music basically reigned supreme in the later 70s by black artists. But yeah, that was a thing that was also going on around that time. Yeah, Laurel Canyon, man. I lived out in Malibu. I know Laurel Canyon because I used to know a guy who lived in Laurel Canyon who used to drive. It was like the back way, to get into the valley, so to speak. But anyway, yeah, but it ain't easy. Let's forget about Three Dog Night. Let's forget about Bowie. Let's forget about Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr's was a whole different thing. He was like a over the top, show busy type of guy. I don't think Ringo really ever, any of his stuff was really that good. He had that album where after the Beatles broke up, just to get off of this thing, because I wanted to talk about something. This is actually a serious topic for people, and it's going to involve even for vets and people who are suffering from mental illness or just totally freaked out over the crap that society's feeding us right now. But when the Beatles broke up, well, you would hope that Ringo could put out a decent album after 60 years. But when people thought when the Beatles was, were kings, and like, people thought the breakup of the Beatles was like the end of the world. Ringo came out with an album, and he got all 4 Beatles were on that album, but they weren't all playing together. So he had Paul McCartney on it. In fact, I think the best track on there was the one Paul McCartney. What happened was he got them to go into the studio and do their track and then send it to him, or and then he added his vocal track or drum track or whatever to it. So so you had Paul McCartney and Ringo playing on a song. You had Lennon through some, gave some kind of track. George Harrison gave a track. George Harrison never used to hang out with that, like wasn't really that negative with anybody, like he used to hang out with Lennon a lot. But like I said, he played on Ringo's album. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. So it was like it was a Beatles album semi, but it was Ringo's music more or less. And that's just a little piece of music history. It's not that bad an album, actually. There was a hit on it. I can hear it in my head. I'm just trying to think of the song. It ain't easy. I think that is. It ain't easy. I think that was the hit. That was the hit from that song, that album. It just ain't easy. You got to pay your dues if you want to sing the blues, and it just ain't easy. Yeah, that song. It's amazing what the human mind can remember. It's crazy. But no, I have no dislike for Ringo. I mean, he seems all right. I've seen him in interviews and stuff like that. I may have seen him along my travels but the thing about Ringo, when he was on tour, and I don't know if this is from a firsthand experience, I'm just trying to remember, because man, I was on the roads for so long and backstage so many times. But when Ringo toured for years with his band of, renowned Ringo something or other, and the band, he was like a prima donna though with that thing. So like the band members would be, on their bus or buses, but Ringo had his own. And so like Ringo would just show up at the last minute. So half the times the guys in the band, like he wouldn't even do a rehearsal. And half the guys in the band, it's the only time they ever saw him it was on stage. And but yeah, so it was an interesting character. But he had an ego, at least in those days. I think I may have been at one event where his band came out, and somebody was telling me that, describing that, saying, yeah, it's the first one of the guys in the band or one of the guys on the road crew were saying that. As far as George Martin writing Beatles songs, someone put up, that's not necessarily true. No, there's actually was at the time. There used to be a lot of music magazines out. I mean, they don't have them anymore. At least they don't have them here. They might have them over in the UK somewhere or something. But they used to be like Beat, Hit Parade type of things. They were leftover magazines from the old days that still managed to stay alive into the 60s and the early 70s. And, I mean, they eventually turned into things like Teen Beat and weird things. And then they just became like pop culture magazines. And I guess they either faded out or were like, just goofy stuff, teen magazines. But it was like they went from being like kind of Hollywood music star magazines, the inside, these real Hollywood Reporter type things, not like the Hollywood Reporter now. Not that it's as good as it used to be or ever was. Because I'm against the cult of personality all along. I'm answering a question on the chat. If you're not, you can see this chat even if you're not here live. This chat's available, in perpetuity. And in one of those magazines, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, I guess they told, because they didn't really write as a team most of their songs. So, and you can really tell like what's a Lennon song and what's a McCartney song. And in one of these magazines, there was actually a listing they made. George Martin had a great influence on basically being a tunesmith, because he had that classical background, and he was, he was a real musical mind. And so he like reined them in, like a fisherman, and produced them, which is, in that kind of situation, a producer is very important. But there's a list of songs where they listed who wrote what. Like Hey Jude was Paul McCartney. That's like the type of thing. And then in his later music, that's the type of stuff. Lady Madonna, right? You could tell the songs that were Lennon's and the songs that were McCartney's. There was some collaboration. It's just like, it was, it was pretty obvious. But that's just how it worked out. But anyway, let's not talk. We just wasted 26 minutes talking about insignificant things. I don't want to talk about that. This is serious. This is a real serious show. Real serious show. All right. There's a lot of people out there living in despair. Despair is a really weird word. I wrote a song called Despair. It was a poem that I had published on some song or some site where a lot of people used to put poetry. I can't even think of the name of it. And when I wrote that song, or I wrote that poem, I first wrote it as a poem. So I got into this beat poetry thing. I was doing I was just doing these poems, which seems weird, like, me being the poet laureate. I'm pouring more Dr. Thunder into my morning show mug. But that somehow hit a chord with people. And they used to have, and I was on that. I used to write these poems, beat poetry tracks, I guess. I mean, I think I might have started recording them. But when I put that one up, I mean, I was always just somebody on this site, there were all these people, and I guess all these serious poets, And somehow that song, the way it was, site was run, that got like pushed to the top as like the featured or top poem of, and was in the number one slot, because that's how the site was. It was like, like people, I don't know if they voted on it or whatever, but there was thousands and thousands of people writing poems on this site. And this thing, Despair, got to the, became really big. I'm going to see if I have a copy of it on here. No. I haven't put my music on my sound effects computer, but I know it's on here. But I'll find a lyric here for you and just give you a couple of it. Because this really is definitely has to do with this subject matter. Music. Let's see. Despair. Where is it? Why isn't it showing up in my list of songs? Search for it. Despair. Apple brought up like a million links that don't even have I'm sure don't even have the word despair in it. Apple computers absolutely suck. Here we go. I just saw it for a second ago. Despair text. All right. So let me give you a little bit of this. And I just have to make it bigger, so I have to strain my eyes and get a headache. And the interface for this text edit program is really weird. It's got this bigger, you can go bigger and then bigger, unless you decide to bring up the font thing. Well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just babbling, wasting your time. Tony Caravan live show. This song is registered with BMI, by the way, in case somebody wants to tries to steal it. Despair. There's an overwhelming feeling inside, an itching anxiety you can't hide. The stress of life and the cost of living. It eats at your body and entire being. You try diversions, media, and gaming, but it's always there as an underpinning. Others downplay it and rationalize it, but you know they're just concealing it. Despair, the plague of our culture, where the greedy and powerful are vultures, feeding on everything we do, enslaving us so they can pursue a life without despair, only for the chosen few, the vampires and succubus who prosper on us. You try to fight it, you self-medicate. You try to beat it, pray and meditate. You get help and prescription drugs, but the next day you're victimized by thugs. There's no escape from the terror. The propagandists say you're in error. They weave and spin and promise better, but in the end you're left in squalor. Despair has destroyed our culture. The greedy and powerful are vultures. They feed on the fruits of our labors and keep taking more without a care. Our lives are filled with despair when all we want is to be happy. Despair. Won't someone set us free? No more despair for you and me. Despair. And that kind of brings it to the top, you know. It ain't easy. And so, you know, I was talking the past couple days, and I'm actually going to delete one or two videos, more videos, because like yesterday was an audio nightmare. And I'm still like, I didn't want to do this, but see, I don't know if I got a problem. And the problem is yesterday, the microphone. Hey, Tony, I'm going to play something here. Do me a favor.
This is Metropolitan Police speaking.
Can you hear
Police
anything?
Speaking. All persons are warned to stay off the streets. All persons are warned to stay off the streets.
Were you able to hear that? Someone saying stay off the streets? Give me a yes or a no. Did you hear the sound effects? I know you're there, man. Are you still there? Or whoever's there. Somebody's there. I could see. Okay, thanks. All right. So you heard that stay off the streets thing, is what you're saying. Just give me a yes again. All right, thanks again. I appreciate that, man. So you know, that whole idea is Great. So, I was saying the past couple of days that I feel like I'm walking on eggshells with this YouTube thing, this morning show, because there's certain things I want to say. But like a couple of days ago, they basically took down one of my videos and said it was because it was in violation of their medical misinformation policy. So without getting back into all the details of all that, which I blabbered about, that means, okay, you can't talk about what is the major current event today, right? So what they're saying is you can't talk about it. You can't have an opinion on it. And who the hell am I? I'm some big influencer. I got 1 million followers or something like that. And why is it the guys who actually do have, 10,000s, got you on the back of their wall, they got that stupid YouTube looking, button thing that they got 100,000 listener or, subscribers or something. And then you watch them, I'll watch a few of these people sometimes. And they're talking all about this stuff. Mentioning the words. They're not even like me. I like play around. I'll do something like this, the thing in the arm to get the point, to talk about what. And I got to watch that, they'll block my video for that. But these guys are using the actual words and names of the companies and that are, that have the various things and this, that, the other. And they're on there and they got their little plaque on the wall. And so, what's up with that? What's the fear? Like I say, it's really, it's disheartening for a guy like me. It's like, yeah, okay. I wrote books and did these things and stuff, but I don't have 100,000 subscribers. I've got like 26. I'm on a bunch of different platforms. That's true. And I don't, and I'm sure there's, so in the aggregate, it may add up into several thousand people. But so, yeah, you can't talk about, that. You can't talk about anything to do with, I call it politics is pop culture all the time. Well, you can't get in, you can't criticize anything, within that world. I can't. Or they'll block my video. They'll take it down. They actually just took down the video and gave me an after the fact thing. I held up the paper. I have it somewhere, but I mean, just for the sake of it, I also have a picture of it on my screen. I'll just read this to you real quick. Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our medical misinformation policy. We've removed the following content from YouTube, and then they list the video. We've removed it. So after the fact, they didn't even give me the chance, because I don't know if you know this or not, but if if you produce content on YouTube, you have the ability to download it, your video, like this live video. When it's done, I could download it, and so I have a copy of it, right? So I don't understand how, so I didn't even have the chance to download it. And because I did it live, I don't even remember, what it was. right? But I know one thing for sure is I don't get into that kind of like I said, I don't play politics anymore. I used to, you know, I'm like anybody else. I bounced back and forth a couple of times, growing up. You're influenced by people. I told you before, I was like a far left, not far left, but I mean, I leaned left because I was sleeping with a girl who was like a far lefty. But, and then later on, I was basically, when I saw the bull crap going on with all the extremist Marxist and all that kind of stuff, I was basically criticizing them. So I guess people on the right would classify me as somebody on the right. But then, I realized that all politicians are all just part of this thing I call the corporatocracy, and that they're all bought and sold for. And even the good ones, when I say good ones, I mean, there's people out there that they get involved. They call it make a difference. They get involved in politics because they want to make a difference. And they start out good. And, maybe they got a good heart. And even if they keep that, keep themselves, like in that poem by Rudyard Kipling, if you can keep yourself while all around you are, losing it, just to paraphrase it. There's people like that, but they're not getting their voices heard. I mean, maybe they're on get a soundbite on a TV show or a retweet or a meme, but they're not getting, when it comes time for votes or policies, they're completely outnumbered. The corporatocracy writes all the rules. I mean, and this isn't just in the US, it's all over. I mean, look how Boris over in the UK, he like flip-flopped. What'd he say? He was going to eat an ID card. He'd eat it or something like that. And now he's like, meanwhile, they were pushing some kind of passport for, like I say, the unspeakable. So when I say it ain't easy, it ain't easy. And it leads, and that's what I'm saying, it leads to despair, that thing I wrote. And that's no different than returning troops. All these soldiers who went over and fought for what they were told was freedom, to preserve freedom, protect their country, their family and their country, freedom. And they come back, PTSD, horrific injuries, all the horror, like in Apocalypse Now, that line, the horror. And they come back and where's our freedom? What are they having nightmares for? Would they go through all that nightmarish hell, lost their brothers in arms, and they come back and it's like, this isn't even the same society it was even like 3 years ago or something. I mean, 2 years ago. It's like, this is coming down, this great reset's coming down on us like a sledgehammer. It's like, they're like some giant is like about to step on us with this big foot and crush Western civilization altogether. So it ain't easy. You know, it's it's messed up is what it is. And people. So the thing about this is the immediate response from people when you talk about something like this is, well, you need to talk to somebody. You should see a psychiatrist or go to one of these counseling, group counseling sessions or, you know, that type of thing. Or, you need to look at the bright side of life or something, like Monty Python. Always look at the brighter side of life. Well, the guy's like being crucified. But I mean, but that's the truth. That's what people will say. Oh, you're taking things too seriously. It's not that bad. And I've said myself over the past, like, yeah, it's a beautiful world. And there's beautiful people out there and all that stuff. Yeah, well, that's true. But this show isn't about that. It's about, it just ain't easy, for people getting through the day. And we should probably be more conscious of that. And there's nothing, and it's there's really no response that you can say to somebody, that's in that state of despair that I talked about. Because they're right. I mean, what, there is no, you don't just tell somebody to be happy, right? When somebody's upset. It's like I was saying, the happy nightmare or just like some kind of weird nightmare or dream or something like that. It's like there's no easy, simple solution. And there's certain things you get over in time. Even the tragedy of, people in relationships that break up, people that have, deaths in the family. I mean, even the death of a pet, these are all highly emotional things. People who get a cancer diagnosis, elderly people, right? People who are sick. And so, some people who are sick will recover, but that takes time. Some people, people recover unless, unless you've lost your mind, you recover from a broken relationship. When there's somebody dies, you mourn. But in time you keep them in your memories and things like that. But, as time passes on, you return to life and realize that death is a natural part of life. I mean, that's it. We're all heading that way, whether we like it or not. That's, we all get off on that stop. That's the last stop on the train of life. But we deal with that stuff because because we hope we're somewhat sane, or we're somewhat mentally stable enough that we can get over those things, those temporary setbacks. But it's like, again, another beautiful sight, in a beautiful world. Heck, I'd love to be out there hanging out, by that lighthouse right now. I wish I was doing the show. There's like a building there. I wish my studio was right there, you know, and I'd be like, yeah, it's a beautiful world. But, you know, at the same time, there's beautiful people. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, it feels like it's all closing in on us for a lot of us. I mean, I feel it myself. Like I say, I feel like the wind's been taken out of my sails by this Google, YouTube. You know, I was getting in, looking forward to doing the morning shows. You know, it was kind of fun. And but then they just want to keep knocking you down. And like, you know, like I say, and this idea of having to watch your words and walk on eggshells. You know, there's billions of more people, good people and rational people than there are, you know, lunatics. I mean, that's the whole idea of what this World Economic Forum Great Reset's all about. It's this old world order, these ruling elite, these people who have appointed themselves as the self-appointed rulers of the world, claiming they own everything. I've said this before, they number in the thousands only, you know? And when you add in their minions, there's like maybe tens of thousands of them. But there's like close to 8 billion people on the planet right now. I'm actually curious. I haven't checked in a while. Let's see. World population 2021. Let's see the latest population. 7.9 billion we're up to. So we're like getting to close to 8 billion people. So yeah, out of those 8 billion people, which there probably are, because, you know, how do they count? You know, how do you count people, you know, in obscure areas in South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia and stuff? They don't know how many people are there. We don't even know how many people are with all the immigrants and migration and all that stuff. We don't even know how many people are in Western countries, let alone in areas that are have no real census trackers or anything. So yeah, out of 8 billion people, you know, this has nothing to do with race, creed, color, or even education or anything of that sort. Yeah, I would say the vast majority of people just want to be happy. Right? It's like, you know, we're just humans. The human animal, you know, minus the soul, you know, what I talk about, the soul or consciousness, whatever, you know, the spirit, you know, whatever you want, however you want. However you want to name the that thing that makes you, right? So whether you want to deal with it from a religious connotation or scientific connotation, or from a new age thing, I don't care. I don't care. Like that doesn't really matter. You know, you do your own thing. But, you know, there's people out there. And so you're talking about we're approaching 8 billion people on this planet. Yeah, I would say the vast majority of those people, they just want to be happy. They just want, you know, they just want something, you know, they just want their little piece of sunshine or something. There was some movie or a piece of moonlight. There was some movie I saw one time, some weird movie. It was called Box of Moonlight or something. Some goofy, like, independent film where this guy had this box and like the moon was out and he closed it and he said it's like a box of moonlight or something. It was a weird movie. But yeah, people just want their little, you know, they want something to eat. They want to have some human interaction with another person, some sort of, connection with another human being, whatever, whether it's a marriage, relationship, or just friendship, camaraderie, mateship, whatever. And they want to have they just want to live happy. They don't want to be cold. They don't want to be, in the heat. They just want to, most people really are decent, they just want the basic human needs. It's the warpness of these crazy people through the media and this consumerism society that's made people into these monsters and these obsessives. I must have this bling bling, and I have to have the $60,000 SUV, and I got to have this big house or this big flat, and I've got to do this, that, the other, and all this. And, and that's another one that bears down on people, because some people feel pressure by that. And so they live in a life of despair. I say I've gotten over that part. I just live my life. I got everything I want, basically, almost. That's an old blues song. I got everything I want, almost. The other one is, the blues ain't nothing but a good man feeling bad. I used to have that album. I forget who it was by. But, this goes beyond the blues. The blues is a relationship gone bad. The blues is death of a friend or family, or, like I say, even a pet in today's society, because pets have become such a big part of our culture, But, blues is maybe losing your job. That's the blues. But this goes beyond the blues. There's just it's an incessant, beating the drum, just eating at us day after day after day. Do this. Don't do that. If you do this, we're going to do that to you. You can't go here. You can't do that. Or if you want to go here, you got to show us your papers. I got to find that quote. I got to remember. In fact, I got to write that down. From what was it? Your papers, please. Was that from Casablanca, I think, or something like that? See, normally I'd be able to pull up stuff. I have a computer on this side. It's like the one that puts light on this side of my face. But I don't have that connected to the internet because it's an older computer and I have software on there that if it connects to the internet, they'll probably mess with it. Because I have the original Adobe software. I talked about this before. I own it. It's not like it's bootlegged or anything. But they're notorious because of the cloud. Speaking of which, everything's in the cloud now. That they want you to pay monthly for software. So if you have older software, which works fine, works perfectly, but it will seek, when I open the software on here, because I'll use it, I just have to put it on a darn thumb drive so I can bring it on to this computer, which I'm talking to you from, which is my main computer. That I had the printer hooked up to and that I have all my fonts and all that kind of stuff. But I have to thumb drive it over Because when I open up one of those programs, a little thing towards the bottom pops up with a little arrow like it's trying to make a connection. And if it makes that connection, it'll like do something to just wipe that wipe it out. Yeah, people watch TV, they watch movies, they even watch commercials. Like if you think about it, it's no longer the sitcoms or the lifestyles of people in movies. Because at least, excuse me, at least in a movie or some TV show, not at least, but I mean, you're kind of aware that, okay, this person is some wealthy person or something. But, even in the commercials, it shows people living a certain lifestyle and live in a certain way. And then that makes people think that that's normal instead of the way most people live. Like I say, if you've got nearly 8 billion people on the planet, well, first of all, more than half of those people are living in like abject poverty. You can't even imagine how bad, happiness to them is like a day of avoiding, either avoiding being bombed, macheted, or finding shelter or having something to eat or drinking fresh water or something like that. That's how crazy that is. And, it's funny, all these ruling elitists, and these people with the foundations that pretend they're doing stuff, right? It's like, like all this save this, save that things, Well, they've been having these concerts and fundraising, and these foundations have raised billions and billions and billions of dollars for decades and decades and decades. We are the world type of crap that's been going on. Like that was like 30, 40, almost 40 years ago. We are the world. We are the children. Well, those children they were speaking about died a long time ago of disease and hunger, right? Or they're macheted. Arms were chopped off with a machete, right? That's the truth. And meanwhile, these guys who put on these things are like, look, are going to these cocktail parties or getting knighted by the queen or something. Yeah. And being paraded around on talk shows as if they're some kind of celebrity. That's why I say the cult of personality, right? Like, who is Bill Gates? Even like Bono and Bob Geldof and people like that, they were involved in all that stuff. These guys are like very wealthy people, and people look at them like they're humanitarians and stuff, philanthropists. Go to all the, the parties, right? Part of the scene, the in group or whatever. In crowd, I used to call it. I'm in with the in crowd. They could have solved all these problems years ago. It's the same with what happens in the U.S. with all these migrants coming up from Central America. They've had decades and decades. They could have those countries down there are paradise. People go down there because, parts that aren't like, cartel controlled or gang controlled, which really aren't the entire country. I've known people that have moved to, places down there and stuff. People still vacation down in those places. They're paradises, And the thing is, what gets me about South America and all this migration, and even in Mexico, because people go on vacation in Mexico too. And I know people that, go like Baja and these other places. I mean, there's resorts all over Mexico, Cancun. I mean, these are destination points. But anyway, you have these people coming up to come into the United States. They're crossing like the desert. The southern United States, like when you talk about like New Mexico, Arizona, the extreme southern California, Texas is desert, until you get to the Gulf side where you have like Galveston and the Gulf towns where it's like, kind of resort because you've got water, right? I mean, that whole swath of the US, which is pretty much most of it, right? Because as you get to New Orleans and you get over into the Gulf, and it's like those aren't exactly the coolest places in the world, But so they got these paradises, and these people are just abused, They could clean that up. They should, those could be like some of the coolest places on the planet. Instead, these people are like, these women are selling their children or selling their bodies, or becoming indentured servants, basically slaves, to get into the U.S. to cross the desert. Half of them die, get raped, killed, and then the ones who make it end up working in, for 10 years in some sweatshop or some kind of crazy thing. But they just came from like paradise to come here. It's insane. So yeah, these guys, all these so-called philanthropists, the great humanitarians, all these foundations, they don't do any good. But so it ain't easy, man. It just ain't easy. And even in everyday life. And I don't see anybody talking about that, not at all. They're just like marching in step, right? Just get in line. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll do whatever you say. Right? I'll wear this, like I said, everything is long. My little mannequin back here, head. Well, it's got shades on, but basically eyes without a face. The line from the Billy Idol song. Right? People walking around. Eyes without a face. It's crazy. And they accept it. Afraid of the boogeyman, Of course, I got to watch what I say. See, I can't talk about that. Can't talk about it. So it ain't easy. What do I do? Yeah, it's like, so you just pull back. You pull back from society. So all the people that could, might have something to say, might have some ideas, might, have some solutions, or might, open some minds to to what's going on. They silence you. They silence you. It really sucks. And so, I just, like I say, it takes the wind out. It takes the wind out of your sails. You just want to have fun. But it's hard to have fun when you have all of this going on. I'm saying there's a million different, not a million literally, but hundreds, I'm sure, hundreds of different things that are affecting people in negative ways, even beyond some of these things that are in the forefront. All sorts of things that just, just weigh down on people. And the suicide rate, is way, way up, way, way up. And, the state of mind of like children who this is so confusing to little kids. Why can't I play with my friends? Why can't I go outside? Why can't I go to school? Why can't I go here and do this? Why can't we go to the playground? Right? And then they're taught, well, if you go there, you could die. Right? When the odds of them dying are less than like getting struck by lightning or something. People that young. I mean, according to CDC statistics, NIH, the WHO, which Google tried to quote, they've never watched the WHO press releases. See, the fact of the matter is, if somebody flip-flops, how could I be wrong if I happen to quote something they've said and then maybe they flip-flopped a week later or something? Oh, I don't watch. I cut the cord with TV, so I don't know. How am I supposed to, know what Fauci's going to say tomorrow? He flip-flops every couple of weeks, right? So, saying, oh, misinformation. Well, what about him? Why is he allowed to even speak? Put a muzzle on that guy. Every time he's on TV, every third week, second or third week, he contradicts himself. He says something completely different. I saw something about Texas and something, and he was like, well, I guess they were outside, because the Texas numbers have dropped, even though they've loosened up their things a month ago, let it up to the people, but their numbers have gone down. Reportedly, it's what I've seen from multiple sources, legitimate sources who haven't gotten blocked. But he was like, well, I guess a lot of these things were outside. Yeah, but wasn't he even telling people that they shouldn't go outside before? What is it? 1 mask, 2 masks? How come you weren't wearing masks when you went to that baseball game? But you're telling people to wear 2 masks. Weren't you the guy that said last year, over a year ago, oh, this will be nothing more than a bad flu year. Don't worry about it. I mean, didn't Nancy Pelosi go down like in the heart of this thing and go down to Chinatown and say, come on out? Didn't the mayor of New York was outside saying, come on, come out? Well, so why aren't they muzzled? In other words, is what YouTube and what these censors are trying to say is that, oh, I've got to be glued to a television station so I could hear, keep up with the latest, the latest and, hourly change that these individuals might make? I can't keep, I'm not going to waste I don't watch TV. Why should I have to watch TV? I keep abreast of the situation. You know, it's like my phone, yesterday there was like an Amber Alert. Just the phone just like lights up, and I don't even have a cell phone service. I'm on Wi-Fi, but for somehow they can still do that. And there was some Amber Alert because I guess I don't actually it was in Philadelphia, which I thought was weird because I'm way far from Philadelphia. But I mean, if it's serious, do that. I'm trying to fix my chair. So, this, what they've done, to a whole generation is going to have repercussions for the rest of their lives. Because that's how this thing works. That's how we work. This thing, I got some ice cubes here and I'm drinking cold Dr. Thunder Cola, so I don't have to leave the room to go get some ice cubes. It's amazing how, it's like coffee. How quickly coffee gets cold and how quickly a cold drink gets like warm. I mean, it's nothing to do with anything. Oh, sorry about that. It's just weird, It's not like this room is like, it's like the fact that it's like kind of, it's not really hot, super hot in here. Even though it's 39 frickin' degrees outside during climate change, in, almost a month after spring has sprung. And I'm going to lose like plants out in my backyard because I grow stuff. My potatoes have already popped up. And, I probably royally screwed up. I should have put down. It wasn't supposed to be like get into the 30s until tonight. So today was the day I was going to go out and put down some, I put burlap and stuff over some of my plants when I know there's a potential where it could get close to a freeze or, some frost or something. But if I go out there and all those leaves are like brown, from frostbite or whatever, man, am I going to be pissed. And that, it ain't easy, man. It ain't easy. It ain't easy when you got half, half the people or more telling you that there's something called global warming when it's global cooling. The world has been getting colder, not hotter. I know because I've been around the world and I also grow things and I know people who grow things. In fact, before I was doing these things, and a lot of the videos I'd be watching was because I wanted to learn how to do this stuff. I wanted to figure out how to grow stuff in my backyard. I used to watch all these, people who were growing things and giving you tips on how to do this, that, the other. And they all were having problems. They all were talking about, frost, late frost now, and this, that, the other. I mean, for like years and years. Meanwhile, you got these people still talking about like global warming. It's no global warming, man. The earth is cooling. Plus this magnetic field thing, talk about it ain't easy. Things that people ought to be focusing on. You see that volcano that went off on that island? So I think it was down in the Caribbean. Well, they had some cruise ships pull up, but the cruise ships, at least one of them that I was watching a report from, they weren't letting people on unless they had the old shot of Rooney in their arm. So they're saying in the remote possibility, right? First of all, these are the islands. All right. UVB rays kill this thing literally like like just by, it just can't live in it. Was recently brought out that it's, in fact, they said this a long time ago, a year ago, but they say that it's actually 6 times more deadly to the thing, the plague, whatever, the sunlight, UVB rays. But the main point is volcanic activity is on the increase. All right. You've seen, the volcano in Iceland going off out, and it varies all over. It's because our magnetic field is messed up, and it's the solar cycle. We're going into grand solar minimum. And magnetic fields, it's an electromagnetic universe. That's how it really works. And so when you dump that ash up there into the atmosphere, that naturally dims the sunlight, and it cools the planet. So I'm watching these volcanoes go off, and I'm thinking, man, if another half dozen go off, we're in trouble for the growing, for food sort. And there's guys out there. If you ever watch that guy Adapt 2030, guy's name's David Dubine. He's like he shows all the stuff. He shows the charts and he covers that stuff. And he travels around the world too. It's not like he just is one of these guys sitting still, doing some kind of blog about something, getting their information secondhand. It's like when I tell my stories, like I try to tell people, I've traveled, everywhere. So most of my stories are firsthand, or if they're not firsthand, they're from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Because I worked with so many people, who've been to Antarctica, the North Pole, the Himalayas, and stuff like that. I know these people. I can get on the phone and say, hey, what's the story on that? And get a straight answer. And, or I know people that live in different parts of the country. And I say, hey, what's the story with that storm? So, they're living through the tropical storm, or a tornado just came down, whatever, 30 miles east of where they're living or something. So they're there, right? They're seeing the local broadcast, not the network edited 3-minute piece or something. They've seen the all day coverage and know that their sister-in-law lost her house or something. Because remember, that's the only way that you should ever talk about something. If you have either firsthand knowledge of it, means you saw it with one of your, saw or heard it with one of your senses, you were present, or if you get the information from the source, what I call a trusted source, someone who is actually there or was actually there, and they were actually there, and them, and that's not the way people are today. People get their news from like their news app on their smartphone, or Facebook or Twitter news, or, They call it push technology. It's like this stuff is pushed at you. You get notifications. That's like the technical term used to be push technology. And so that's what a notification is. And then they watch these memes, or what used to be the mainstream media, corporate media, the corporatocracy's PR wing. They'll just put out false stories about stuff. It's all clickbait. It's not just a matter of clickbait because they want you to click on a YouTube channel or a tweet or a post, or a newspaper headline, virtual video, digital newspaper, or anything like that. It's all clickbait. TV's clickbait. It's clickbait with your remote control, right? That's a click too. Remember that movie? I think it was called Click or something like that, where the guy had the remote control, and every time he put his life in slow motion or fast motion. That was a funny movie. But yeah, it's all clickbait, to get people to be news junkies, right? And spend all their time in the virtual world, virtual reality instead of reality. And it ain't easy being somebody like me who wants to live in the real world and doesn't care about that. And I'm sure it ain't easy for a lot of other people either. It ain't easy for a single mom who's like hanging out with a kid or two. Mommy, we want to, do this. Mommy, it ain't easy at all. It's driving her crazy. These couples that are trapped in their houses, they're like on the verge of getting divorced, or worse, there's like domestic violence because they're going stir crazy. It's nuts. And no matter where you look, it's the same thing over and over and over. So, and you can't talk to somebody and calm them down or try to, appease them. That's what I'm saying. It's beyond going to, it's like these people go to meetings, and that helps a little bit. But when they have these, various, whatever the heck they call those things, it's like AA meetings or something, but they've got a meeting for everything. People sign up, they call them something else. It's not like a counseling thing. Maybe it's just meetings, I don't know. But people who go to those meetings, yeah, it's great. You've got somebody, of course, I don't, that's a funny thing. That's an interesting thing I hadn't thought about, that are they even allowing people to go to those meetings? Right. So people who are suffering from these various, problems or issues, it's like, are they even allowed to go so they could talk out their problems in these groups? That's it. Group therapy or group things or whatever. It's like, I guess maybe they put their chairs 6 feet apart and they have to wear masks, muzzles, eyes without a face, if they're allowed out of the house, if they're not under quarantine. But the thing is, even within those groups, if you look statistically, there's still people that end up committing suicide and stuff. They just can't hack it. Or they get back into it if it's a drug meeting or, some addicts, heroin overdose type of thing. Yeah, it's, it ain't easy for those people that have addictions and stuff. And why does somebody get themselves into that situation? Because they can't cope, man. They can't cope. Things have gotten out of control all around them. And and these talking heads on TV, they say whatever they want to. They say whatever they want to because they're just selling cars. They're selling cars and they're selling prescription drugs. The testing business, the people that are taking tests for this thing, the unspeakable thing, is a $90 billion industry now. $90 billion. Think about that. $90 billion. So you think they're going to want to stop, say, oh, okay, this is over. We don't need to test people anymore. Well, they don't want to give up $90 billion. And, this thing is like $1 trillion industry. The whole thing is like worth trillions to the corporatocracy, these people in charge. And they put one of these, one of these things, one of the things is now on hold. They took it off because they got problems. All this information, like you can't talk about it. Don't talk about it. I could really talk about this. Now, I have this thing on Locals, it's called locals.com. And I think I am going to make a video. I'm going to do some research, probably maybe over the weekend, and next week I will do that. But I'll probably do a video just made for them. I think it's limited to like 30 minutes or something like that. So that's why I say I'm going to have to like kind of script it out. I don't like to do stuff like that, but at least over there, I'm not going to be banned for it, and that's what people are doing. So they're going to all different alternative places where they can speak freely or more freely. And so I guess people are like just getting into more smaller communities. So society is even further fragmenting. And that's not cool either. Because, it's bad enough that social media is anything but social and that we've blocked this thing where we can get together, But the idea that now we're fragmenting society, and those that that are kind of not clueless, but like, have the clued in, put it that way, are just like a different segment of society. So you either get it or you don't. But it's like those that don't get it are that group is growing more and more because they're more manipulated by the media and the powers that be. And so we have to live in that world, right? Because they're the people that are making making the rules, right? Like as if they they make these rules. There's no, that's how everything is now. They just make these pronouncements. There's no, the people have no say in the matter. And you can't criticize. If you criticize it, well, then you're ostracized by the idiots that actually have already fallen for the lies and deceptions, or you're downright banned, censored, or just erased. Right. Hey, there used to be some guy I used to watch. He used to say these things. I didn't know, some interesting stuff. I don't know what. I wonder whatever happened to him. That's how it is. And that's how I could think about a few people I used to watch on YouTube like that. I'm like, there was this woman, Polly was her name. Amazing Polly. I don't know. Anybody, she was like way into it. She was like the ultimate research. And her setup was, she wasn't doing like the live thing like I do, where I don't really, because if I would produce these things, use a program, I could have things pop up on the screen and stuff like that. Well, she obviously had that set up. She spent the $600 or $1,000 to buy that software or whatever. I'm not going to waste my money on it, because I don't know if it would work on my computer. And maybe like Apple will do an upgrade and then it won't work. So I'm tired of that game being played. Homie, don't play that. But this Polly, and she's vanished. I mean, I'll just out of curiosity do a little check here. Let's see where she is. Amazing Polly. Amazing Polly. Yeah, she has a website, amazingpolly.net. I'm going to put that in my thing. Now, it looks like she has some kind of video still. It like almost looks like a YouTube video. Well, anyway, she's one of these people that has like done this ridiculous amount of research. And she just like it's like, David Icke's they took David Icke down too, I think. Right? I don't think he's on YouTube anymore. Right? I don't think he is. Let's see. DavidIcke.com. No, I don't. Let's see. Home news, live events, forum. Yeah, he's gone. Good old David Icke. Right? I mean, he was into, he got David Icke was always gotten a bad rap because it was the reptilian idea. But, hey, with all the stuff coming out with the Navy showing these like weird UFOs and stuff now and everything like that, man, for all we know, David Icke was right all along, But the thing is, he hasn't really talked about that reptilian stuff in a long time anyway. But he was getting into the factual stuff. But this Polly girl, she was woman, whatever. She wasn't that young. she was really digging into research and finding stuff, and it was, and so they nixed her. And there was a whole series of people like that. And I'm not talking about all like extreme, like I say, the extremists, because she was always backing everything up with like documents. Like she would go, she would find, who these people were that would be involved in, like, say, the World Economic Forum. And she would find their bios, literally on the internet, and she would pop that on the screen and then show who their connections and like how these people in these foundations were, connected, and how the money was being spent, and how a lot of these foundations were just money laundering operations and scams, and that the foundation would donate money to some NGO or something like that. But that money would end up going back to the members of the foundation individually. They had an interest in it. And that's, that's crazy, and the average person doesn't know that. So they elevate these, like I say, back to these philanthropists and these, the so-called great humanitarians, the cult of personality. And the reality is they're just frauds, right? It's like everybody. It's like these people on television. They're frauds, and they just say whatever they want to, and nobody's censoring them. Nobody's banning them, right? They're not walking on eggshells. They don't have to mince their words, worry about what they're saying. They just feel free and, happy. It's like this morning I woke up, had that weird dream before I woke up, but still I woke up and it was like a good night's sleep. So I was like, I'm laying just before I got out of bed, I'm like thinking, I feel good. I just felt good. Had a good night's sleep. It's a good feeling. Got up, and I was like, but normally I'd be down here and I'd be messing around with like, all these crazy.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
This is this thing, because I'm going to take down the one video from yesterday. This is the one that didn't play. This is a line from Josie Wales. This is this 10 Bears when Josie Wales meets this Indian chief. And this is like kind of an interesting thing. It's about 30 seconds long, but I'm going to play it because I wasn't happy with the audio was really screwed up yesterday for some reason.
It's said that governments are achieved by the double tongues. There is iron in your words of death for all Comanche to see, and so there is iron in your words of life. No signed paper can hold the iron. It must come from men. The words of 10 Bears carries the same iron of life and death. It is good that warriors such as we meet in the struggle of life or death. It shall be life.
Yeah, that was from the outlaw Josie Wales.
I think all three of you popped your stoppers.
But anyway, yeah, it ain't easy, man. It ain't easy doing this. It ain't easy. It ain't easy for a lot of people just getting through the day. And this never-ending thing that's become profitable. See, because remember that it's all about, it's another line from a movie, follow the money, But it's what it's all about. It's about the money. Politicians, once they're elected, however they're elected, fraudulently or not, they all become multimillionaires, wealthy people. They don't get paid big salaries. So where's the money come from? Graft, bribes, things like that. So you can't trust them. It's all about the money. And so, governments are it's a corporatocracy. I mean, they call it the World Economic Forum. That's the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum. It's all about money, right? There's some crazy things going on right now. Like Bitcoin's up to over $62,000. And China's trying to create some kind of coin, blockchain coin. And, they bought up all the gold. They have all the gold. And Russia has a lot of gold now, too. This is just a little off topic, but, this is something that, I don't think these censor guys are even aware of yet, because no, people aren't really following this one. There's like this monetary war going on that could end up leading to a hot war of some kind. And that's why the US, is playing games again with Russia, because Russia also has a lot of gold and they're trying to crash the Russian ruble. Literally, it's pretty messed up. But they forget that China and Russia have like a kind of a pact, of a security pact of like kind of that they'll defend each other. And no matter what people think about the communist Chinese, which is a brutal communist regime, all right, torturing their people, concentration camps, look what they did to Hong Kong, freedom in Hong Kong, what they did there. But, they're determined to be this global power and crush the US dollar. And so there's this war going on between the central banking system, like the Federal Reserve in the US and like the EU, World Bank, IMF, something called the Bank of International Settlements. That's something nobody even knows about. This Davos set World Economic Forum. And like I say, remember, the world is run, governments, what used to be governments, elected governments are it's a corporatocracy. They're corporations. And we're all peons. We're nobodies. Millionaires are nothing today, It's billionaires, right? And so we're in a $1 trillion world, trillions of dollars. And debt doesn't mean anything to these people because money is just all fake, right? And so, yeah, what the U.S. did, what the Biden administration did to Russia is conceivable, is considered an act of war, or would be in days gone by. But it's the pressure. See, it's not a guy with dementia, somebody they put in, some puppet president. Because the U.S., like I call this the former United States of America. That's why they have this guy with dementia as a president. It's just a puppet, just like everybody in Congress and the Senate in the U.S. They're just puppets, marionettes. I ain't one yet. It was a line from a Mott the Hoople song. People remember that one. But yeah, there's a war, and it's a financial war because it's always about the money, and it's about the money of the rulers of the world. See, the world is a big game board to them. Like I talk about the game of life, but there's, and the game of life can be looked at in two different ways. It's one, you got to learn the rules of the game of life. And on a personal level, a local level, how to live life. What's life all about? And that's what I always say. It's about your five senses, your consciousness. The way you perceive the world, right? Life is an experience, right? That's the purpose of life. People are like, oh, what's the meaning of life? I don't know what. It's like, wake up, man. Life isn't that complicated. You've got five senses, right? The purpose of life, the meaning of life is to experience life. You're born, with senses to experience life. It's not that hard to figure out. All right. Well, that's the game of life. All right. That's who you are. That's your place. That's what this game is, right? We're these experiential, players. But we're not players. The real players are the Davos set, right? These people like the tens of thousands that are trying to rule over 8 billion people. And there's wars going on. And the next war is going to be robotics, robotics, drones, and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be about currencies and control. I mean, wars always have been about money and land and control. I mean, if you think about it, it's like, at least in the old days, you would have, in some instances, not all, but you would at least have the king out there, on a horse, right? On the battlefield. Right now, you never, they got these wars and they just send out the poorest of the poor, pawn soldiers, because they're, there should be a rule that if there's ever a war, you have everyone in the Senate, the House, or Parliament, right, and the prime ministers and presidents, that they all should have to be on the front line if they're going to have a war. If they want to declare war, okay, well then you guys go fight it. Put on, and you want to wear a suit of armor if if you're a pussy. Yeah, it's crazy, man. And it ain't easy dealing with all this stuff. Not knowing, who to trust, what to trust, when the news is like, is a lie, when social media is a lie, and when they're profiting off of something that you can't even talk about. It's pretty scary. And for a lot of people, it's messed up and it's messing with their minds. Like I say, they're messing with kids' minds. They're messing with adults' minds. They're messing with soldiers' minds. They're messing with, people suffering from illnesses or addicts' minds. They're messing with the average person's mind. And then these people who have been already like kind of brainwashed, basically, by the media, indoctrinated, conditioned, propagandized, whatever you want to call it. They've gone over to the other side. And they're not happy people. You can see it. So when you walk around and you see these eyes without a face, they're not happy people. You don't see them having fun. 2 days ago, I went up the street. There's a pub up the street that opens up at like 7 a.m. It's like, I think it's like people who have some kind of like late night shift. They get off work or something like that. And that play they've allowed these, they've loosened up the rules, though I don't think they loosened them up as much as that. I just went up to get like a, box of beer because I just wanted to have a few beers in my own house, my own bar. And I went up there and it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And there was maybe close to a dozen people sitting around the bar. And they were smoking and just having, a grand old time. Conversations. It was interesting to see. And the one guy closest to where I was while I was waiting to pay for my package of beer, he said, well, we got our mask just in case, So there's people out there trying to, get around the system, trying to live and be happy and carve out some kind of existence under this totalitarian, authoritarian state that's taking over, countries and the entire world. But I'll tell you, man, I don't see it ending, not with the kind of money they're pulling in. And, so between this money war that's going on in the background that the average is way over the head of the average person, this idea of messing with the ruble and gold and blockchain, Bitcoin, and China trying to create its own digital currency and stuff like that. That's a whole different world, the world of the financial world. And that's what's going on. That's what this is really all about. And like I've said, since my sound effects seem to be working, because I know yesterday I pulled this up. I watched my video yesterday. I'm going to take it down because I was just, we're still just cattle to them, man. And like I said in that one video, what?
Can we use the network to transmit a message?
All these great sound effects I have, man. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
I fear no evil.
But there's not going to be a Messiah to save anyone. There's a whole other thing. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, watch this guy, Doug Vogt. It's called the Diehold Foundation. And he's one of these guys. There's a couple of people talking about it. Serious people, too. Another one's called suspiciousobservers.org. Guy named Ben Davidson. And they're talking about a micronova that happens every 12,068 years. And they've got all this documentation for it. This Doug Vogt, he has all the information, but he's this older guy. He's written a lot of books about it, and he makes these presentations. There's a new one up on the internet right now. Diehold Foundation, Doug Vogt, VOGT. But he stands next to a screen like he's like teaching this thing, but he's just not a good presenter, of things. He can't, he needs to wear glasses or something. Like he misreads words and stuff like that. But he puts up the information, but it's but this guy, Ben Davidson, does a better job of it. And what they're trying to say is within the next 25 years, the sun is going to go through a cyclical micronova. And it's going to be like a semi-catastrophic event for the planet. In other words, it's going to take out most people. And unless you're within 15 degrees of the or something like that of the equator, you're toast. It's like when they said North America and Northern Europe was covered with miles of ice. And that was 12,000 some years ago. And people just don't grasp this. You know, it was like the flash freeze, because you got to watch, you got to check this thing out, you know, because that was that whole thing I was talking about a couple of videos ago, or many videos ago, where they found these mammoths with undigested food in their stomachs. So they're just flash frozen. So people think they got problems, man. If that thing happens, man, we got problems. And like this idea that some hero messianic figure is going to come and save the world, it ain't. It's not part of. It doesn't seem to be the part of the thing. This is no apocalyptic time. You know, this is just a cyclical, you know, thing. What's going on right now? This is just greed, you know, gone out of control, but it's not like it hasn't happened before. Like I always say, empires rise and fall, you know, and they have, you know, for a long, long time. And I don't see, you know, I don't see that. Well, you know, I don't see this any different. But this 12,000 year cycle, yeah, you know, some people liken these things to the Great Flood. You know, it was not just Noah's flood. You know, there's something like hundreds of different stories from all different cultures all talk about a flood. So, you know, that's just part of, you know, and it's in the archaeological record too. You know, ocean levels have risen 400 feet, and they're finding these, you know, coastal cities, you know, off of India, you know, Japan, you know, different parts of the world, Cuba, you know, the Caribbean. Because just like now, people tend to want to live in coastal cities. That's where the big population centers are. So, you know, I don't want to get in. This is the end of this video, but you know, that's for another time. Talk about that. You know, I personally believe that 36,000 years, that like the Sphinx is like 36,000 years old, and that there was more advanced civilization, and perhaps even we are, you know, in a couple of these catastrophes ago, and that we're just, you know, we're going to experience it again. I mean, humans screw up, man. We screw up. But I do believe in consciousness is, you know, if you want to call it your soul or something, I do believe that that's an immortal thing. And that people got to come to grips with that sort of thing, you know, as well. But there's a lot of soulless people walking out around there in my mind. That's what the Walking Dead. But like I say, that's a whole different story. And I know that's a little woo-woo for people, and they don't want to hear that. You know, that put me in the David Icke category. We talk about that stuff. But it's too bad you can't just have talks about that either. Just you know, just for the sake of it, conversations. So what's so wrong about just like talking about stuff, you know? And that's why I say, so it ain't easy. It ain't easy for me. It ain't easy for a lot of people, and it ain't easy for most people unless you, you know, march to the beat, you know, of the power elite is what it really amounts to. And those people don't have your best interest in mind. And, you know, it's like there's nobody out there in charge saying anything like this.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Because most people are afraid. I see them all the time. I mean, every day, anytime I go outside of my house, I see people. I saw another woman the other day, some older lady. She was in her car, windows up. It wasn't even like, you know, the weather wasn't even bad on that day because I was walking out. It wasn't even like a jacket. You probably didn't even need to wear a jacket. and she had the windows of her car up. She was in the car by herself, and she was wearing a freaking mask. So obviously this woman is scared to death. Right? And so, that's like, and that's typical of people. Anyway, I'm going to end it there. Thanks for watching. Good morning. Have a good morning, good day, and I got to figure this whole thing out. I got to like change. So I'm gonna change something about this because I can't be walking on eggshells. I want to just talk straight talk. I'm tired of having to like beat around the bush because worry about getting some kind of strike and 3 strikes you're out. What a childish, crazy game. And that they're playing. Sick. Anyway, have a great day. Cheers. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.